You stayed just long enough to hurt me again. We made promises that only dreams could keep. You looked at me like you remembered everything. I begged you to stay. You said, I can't. You smiled like nothing ever happened. That shattered me. You touched my face like it was sacred. We kissed without fear, without pain. You were softer in sleep than in memory. You said, I know you still think of me. I saw your guilt before I saw your smile. You whispered, I never meant to leave. You apologized like your soul meant it. We didn't speak. We just healed. You said, I feel you even now. We sat on the floor like old times. You looked at me like I was still yours. You asked if I moved on. I didn't answer. You felt real. That's what scared me. You said we were never finished. I felt your hand slip from mine again. We found peace in the place we never could. You kissed my forehead and disappeared. You looked like you missed everything. You called me by the name only you use. We weren't broken there. You held me like you'd been waiting. I told you I still ache. You nodded. You felt like closure wrapped in chaos. I asked, do you still love me? You didn't say yes. You didn't have to. We walked through memories like they were home. You looked like the version of you I never stopped missing. You said, I feel you when I sleep. You made space for me, finally. I heard your laugh again. I broke again. You said, let's start over. I wanted to believe it. You held the part of me no one else touches. We were magic again, for a moment. I cried in your arms. You let me. You said you never stopped looking for me. I asked, why now? You said, because I never healed. We met at the edge of forgiveness. You showed me what could have been. You loved me with the eyes of a stranger. We danced in silence like nothing hurt. You came back in the one place I can't stay. I told you I still remember the little things. You said you were always the one. I begged you not to vanish. You smiled. We said goodbye without saying it. You looked at me like I was still worth it. You found me in a place no one else has. You said nothing. Your eyes screamed. We held the silence between us like glass. You looked like the apology I stopped needing. You wrapped me in the warmth I forgot existed. You were the ache that felt like home. You touched my soul in sleep. You said, I waited too long. You loved me only where reality couldn't reach. You faded like smoke, but I still smelled you. We were infinite for a heartbeat. You looked at me like nothing ever hurt us. We sat in the quiet. It felt like forgiveness. You never spoke, but I heard everything. You reached for me like you were drowning. You kissed me like it was goodbye. I woke up mid-hug. I never wanted to let go. You smiled like the pain never happened. You looked like peace and chaos all at once. You said, "I'm sorry I waited too long." You looked at me like love was still possible. We never said what we felt, even in dreams. You showed up with everything I needed. I was finally enough until I woke up. You held me like you knew I was breaking. You said, "I should have fought for us." We stood in the place where we fell apart. You look like someone I used to pray for. You found me in my favorite memory. You said nothing. The silence healed me. I asked, "Are you happy?" You looked away. You reached for me, but you were fading. You loved me like time didn't exist. I cried in your arms like it was the last time. You said, "I never stopped feeling you." We kissed like we remembered every lifetime before this. You looked tired, like love wore you out. You came back just to say you still care. You didn't need to say anything. I knew. I held you like I knew it was temporary. You whispered, "I remember everything." You touched me like you were afraid I'd vanish. I said, "Don't go again." You said nothing. You said, "This is where I still love you." We stood in the ruins and smiled. You loved me like we weren't broken. You said, "I think of you more than I admit." You called me by my full name. I melted. You stayed until the light came. I said, "Why do you haunt me?" You cried. You told me what you never had the courage to. We were strangers with a shared heart. You loved me in a way only dreams allow. You touched the part of me no one reaches. I told you I missed you. You already knew. We walked barefoot through memory. You said, "I never really let go." You looked like the version I begged to stay. You touched my chest and said, "It still beats for me." You held my pain like it was yours. You came to say sorry. I almost believed it. You smiled through your tears. We talked about the future we never had. You promised to stay next time. You didn't ask for forgiveness. You gave it. I asked, "What now?" You kissed my hand. You looked like someone who still dreams about me, too. You were everything you couldn't be in real life. We met halfway between memory and fantasy. I saw you in my sleep because I can't find you in my waking life. You kissed me like you meant it. I woke up alone. You felt real in the dream. That's what hurt the most. My soul keeps replaying a love that never got to exist. You showed up in my dream like you never left. Even in dreams, you look away when I beg you to stay. I heard you say, sorry. I woke up crying. You held my hand in the dream. I still feel it. You found me in my sleep, but not in real life. I begged you not to go. You smiled, then disappeared. I asked if you still loved me. You didn't answer. In the dream, you loved me like you used to. Your silence was louder in the dream than in reality. I saw the version of you I still miss. You looked at me like I was home. Then I woke up. Your ghost lives in my dreams. We made eye contact in the dream. It broke me. I woke up with your name stuck in my throat. You felt like mine again for a moment. You didn't speak. You didn't need to. You hugged me like you knew I needed it. I told you everything I never got to say. You were glowing. I was breaking. You looked happy without me. That's how I knew it was a dream. I asked if you remember me. You nodded. I reached for you. You faded. You held me without fear. That part felt real. We danced in silence. I've never felt so heard. You forgave me. That's how I knew it wasn't real. I woke up wanting to fall back in. You looked at me like I was everything you never left. Not really. You said my name like it still mattered. In the dream, I wasn't afraid to love you. I kissed you like I'd never get to again. You said you missed me. I broke. You felt like forever in a place that doesn't exist. You whispered, I still believe in us. I found your eyes again. I lost myself again. You said you waited. I knew it was a lie. The dream didn't end. It was ripped away. I held your face and cried. You were softer than I remembered. You looked at me like I was worth saving. You smiled and it felt like home. I asked you why you left. You said, I had to. You touched me without guilt. We sat in silence, and it healed something. You stayed this time, until I blinked. You chose me. Then morning came. Your eyes held every answer I never got. You were wearing the hoodie you left behind. You said, it wasn't your fault. You didn't run. I didn't break. I told you I still love you. You didn't flinch. We said nothing, but I heard everything. I could feel your heartbeat. It matched mine. You asked if I was okay. I lied. You said, this is the version of me that never hurt you. In the dream, we started over. I was enough in your eyes. You stayed longer than reality allowed. You kissed my scars and called them beautiful. We held each other like the world was ending. You cried. I forgave you. You were the apology I stopped waiting for. We spoke in silence. It said more than words ever could. I was safe in your arms. You looked like the person I believed in. You promised me forever again. We laughed like nothing ever broke us. You said you never stopped checking my page. I asked, why now? You said, because I never left. You gave me back the pieces you stole. In the dream, you never betrayed me. I kissed your forehead. You said, I missed this. We were strangers who knew everything about each other. You remembered my favorite song. You said, you're still the one. You looked like you regretted everything. We found each other in the dark. You said you wished things were different. I asked what we hear. You said, a lesson. You ran toward me this time. You didn't say goodbye. You didn't have to say anything. I knew. You stayed until morning. We cried together. I finally healed. I asked if you dreamed about me too. I touched your cheek. You disappeared. You asked, would you still choose me? I didn't want to wake up. I saw your soul. It still loved mine. You said, it always had to be you. In the dream, I was whole again. You looked at me like love still lived here. We stood in the rain. You didn't let go. You didn't break me this time. You whispered, I never forgot. You loved me out loud for once. You found your way back, but only in sleep. We didn't speak. We just held on. I told you I forgive you. You cried. You said, it wasn't your fault. We weren't broken, just paused. You were the dream I kept waking up from. You smiled like you still believed in us. You kissed me like it was the first time. We said goodbye without saying a word.